Welcome to Warblog. Today we're looking at the National Syrian Army capture of Afrin. Or at least that's what I thought it was. I did have I thought, oh look, it's the National Syrian Army. I must have those counters somewhere in there. But I didn't, so I looked them up and I'm pretty sure that the National Syrian Army is pretty much the Free Syrian Army. So I've used the counters, but I've used the term National Syrian Army throughout. National Syrian Army, but as you can see, it's the FSA units. Because I looked that up and it seems to be that's what Wikipedia seems to suggest. So, I don't know. The thing is, I never really have enough time to really study things. I just read the headline. It says Turkish-backed militants launch surprise military. No, sorry, Saffron, I never do that. I hate that donation bar. It's quite clear that they're like a front. I think they're a Western front because if we didn't have, we just don't see anything in the West from Russia. You know, there is a barrier. It's been there for years. So but the West can't produce content like this so they have to make it look like they're Russian. And this is like belts and braces content. It's just simple and straightforward and not politically correct because it's not focusing on children. You know, it doesn't say Turkish-backed militants hurt 55 children in Aleppo. Doesn't say that. It says Turkish-backed militants launch surprise military operation in northern Aleppo, capture key town. Capture key town south of Afrin. See, this is the thing. Is I never make a pretense of being a complete expert. It's not as though I'm sort of sitting here with a beard, pretending I'm an expert on these things. You know, it takes a bit of time. But I was sitting there thinking, well, they capture key town of Afrin, because Afrin's quite a big important place. So obviously my map includes Afrin and I focused it around Afrin, but I think it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I've concluded Afrin there, but really the focus is on here. They take these two places. So if you read this article, it says a few hours after the beginning of the operation, the NSA announced that its forces have taken control of the key town of Marnaz, south of the occupied area of Afrin. So the occupied area of Afrin is that, because that's what that border is, or something like that. But there's Marin there. And then it says, because I did actually read it, just not very well. The group's media wing released several photos showing Turkish-backed militant forces in the town. Sorry for laughing. I just explain because these are their photos. So that's them, and that's how I've interpreted them. You know, I mean that they're probably irregular units. Yeah, I won't laugh. The group's media wing released several photos. This allowed some local observers to suggest that Marnaz was handed over to the NSA. See, this is probably secret language because the NSA is something like the American secret police. So this is probably all run by the NSA under a secret Turkish agreement. Who are part of the NATO. Units of the Syrian Army and Russian military police are currently deployed along YPG forces in the city of Tel Rafit. Well, I got that. So there's Tel Rafit down there, but I only got it after. So there's I couldn't find my Russian police, and I couldn't be bothered to make a new one, so I just gave them some infantry. They're all non-combatants, doesn't matter. And there's the Syrian Arab Army, too, mechanised and armoured. Sources close to the NSA. No. Sources close to the NSA said the operation will be limited to Marmaz and its neighbouring town Al-Malikiya. Now, Al-Malikiya is like on the other side of Syria, so I've put it there because I think that's where it is. That's where I got the impression. So these two places. However, this article, and I don't think I can bother to find the other one because there's a lot of hassle. I mean, a lot when I'm live. I mean, I could find it. It's not difficult, but this was the 4th of the 5th. Oh, let's just give it a quick blast. Should be in still somewhere. The comedian. Explosions. Smoke. See, I just want to look through this and think, oh, I'll do that, and there's just so many. There's just too many. Come on. See, I haven't done any of this Gaza stuff. I just too busy. I think they've copied Mike's wiggly lines. They didn't used to do that. It's ISW News. I should send them a copyright notice. Only I'm allowed to do wiggly lines. More combat footage of Houthi fighters destroying things, which will get banned on YouTube, and then eventually. I've probably gone right past it. I know I haven't, because I know what it looks like. There, that's it. So, I knew it'd take probably more time than it's worth whilst doing a video, but this, no. I mean, are we living 1999 when pop-ups, I mean, you know, it's just unreal. But anyway, so it says here, Kurdish forces recaptured the town of Marnaz, south of Afrin, in the northern Aleppo countryside from Turkish-backed militants in a successful counter-attack. So this is a counter-attack. You can't see these places, but basically 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That's these places. So presumably they go from here, they take these places, say that's all they're going to do, and then take these and then lose it in a counter-attack. So make of that what you want. So that's why these and these are here. We've got Afrin because I misread it, but apparently what it also says is their operation was really, let's see what it says anything. The NSA, I love that NSA. They shouldn't have used that. I just cannot, and I will not disassociate that from the other NSA. You imagine all these people in suits and ties, like, and James Bond pistols taking the Kurdish forces by surprise. It would take me by surprise, especially when they threw briefcases at me. And nearby positions with support from Turkish special forces. Opposition sources said the town was full of mines and improvised explosive devices, which played a major role in the NSA's defeat. Now, I haven't got that far, so I haven't put any mines in there. Meanwhile, sources in the Syrian army told Lebanese TV that the Turkish special forces withdrew as a gesture of goodwill after the Russian mediation, including, okay. Turkish-backed militants may make a new attempt to capture Marnaz and its surroundings soon. This could escalate tensions in northern Aleppo further. There's somewhere in there, basically, it says that the only reason they're doing this operation is because of repeated YPG or attacks on a policeman or someone, a soldier got shot recently. And it's probably the PPK type elements of the YPG certain elements within here that are sort of constantly antagonizing the Turkish-backed FSA, NSA units, and that was why they did this assault. It'd be interesting to see, because Afrin is sort of like the center of this sort of part here. So it's an interesting game, I think, because you can play it both ways. I'm not going to play the whole thing through, but I'll put it into play mode. And I get my favourite thing out, my drawing tool. So, I mean, obviously there's this sort of front line there, and then there's a front line there. Now, exactly where it is, I don't know. And obviously it goes sort of down there. I mean, it could be further forward, it could be more jiggly, I don't know. So, and I think naturally you've got these two, because of this Maidanki Lake, you've got two fronts as such. You've got this, which we can call the Eastern Front, and we've got this, which we call the Western Front. Now that would be probably on the wrong side of that, but basically it's all to the west of this river that comes out of the dam and feeds the agricultural land south of Afrin. Now what we could do is say, you can say whether you do or do not want to advance with the Western forces. So you can play this game optionally to reflect what's actually happening and forget the fact that I just didn't read the article properly, and just play this half of the game and leave this static. And to some extent it's not a bad thing to do, because it doesn't really make a lot of difference, and it does allow you, for example, if I made the map just like this, it's quite often very easy to sort of think that this is isolated, but there is an entire front on either side, and it probably goes on this way a little more. So it does allow you to sort of understand the fuller picture. So whenever you've got up front, so for example, when I do this, and I will do this at some point, it's sometimes quite difficult to actually put that into perspective, although we've sort of got that in here already. We don't necessarily, we wouldn't have that in perspective with regards to the bigger picture. For example, if I did that as a map, I'd probably do it like that, and then I'd have the NSA come in, and then the YPG counterattack, and that would be it. And you would not get all of this in that big picture. And I've spoken about this before, but to mention it again, I mean, it's not a big issue, but there is always that sort of that entire map of Syria type scenario where you just use the entire map. It's interesting, really, because I think the Syrian civil war has just gone on for years. I don't even know when it started, but I think it's been going on for a good sort of 5 or 6 years now. And you know, I mean, obviously I do games, and so if you were to put that into a game, it's just, you couldn't play that with a map of Syria, because most of the map would suddenly become inactive. Although, to be quite honest, in the early stages there's a lot going on. I mean, the fact that there's still things happening, they're just little things. I mean, pretty much the war's over, I mean, to be quite honest. But this is just sort of a little thing happening. But even towards the end, you know, once they sort of got rid of most of the central sort of ISIS strongholds, there wasn't much happening elsewhere. And so that zooming in onto the particular areas, you know, is significant and worthwhile. You couldn't sort of, you know, use an entire map of Syria and be constantly using it all. You would eventually gravitate to a very slow and sluggish process that we've got at the moment, with huge lulls as groups, sides regroup and things like that. So, you know, but I think they're sort of putting things into perspective. I will be doing this, but as you probably might notice, I've got a huge backlog of games, and plus I've got so many other ones that I want to be doing from this South Front thing. I keep looking at it, and every time I see something, I think, oh, I'll do that. And I force myself to do this. And the thing is, I did it sort of the hard way. I'll sort of show you. what I mean. Because I know I've done Afrin before, and I thought, what have I done? Now that's Kafrintin, so that's not, that's not Afrin. But this is the one we've got. But this is Afrin 2018, and this is the Battle of Afrin 2018. So presumably these are different dates. But if you look at this one, it's the same map and almost the same. Well, we're looking at this sort of area, and there's the dam, and it's not really that great a map. And there's Afrin under there. So we're dealing with this little area here. From there, that's the sort of section we're dealing with, and that was the western section that we're talking about. You sort of think, oh, that map is sort of, and sometimes, not all these maps are that great. And I wouldn't say this is a good map, or I don't think it's bad, but certainly not as appealing as this one. But I did think of, I'll just copy this one and make it easy. But I never like to copy the maps because I do like the way that they look different. Oh, look. Oops. Yeah, obviously I put them in the wrong places. Anyway, but that's that one. But there's also this Battle of Afrin, and I think this one, no, it's another one. This one is actually quite interesting, and this was like at a much different stage. And I think this one didn't actually happen. I can actually remember this to some extent. This is quite an interesting map and quite an interesting scenario. But there's the FSA with the actual Turkish forces in as well. So every time you draw a map, or every time you look at it and you interpret it and you look at Google Maps, you come up with something different. And I think that sort of is quite an intriguing process, really. It defined by, on one side, my ability to do a map properly and quickly and making it interesting, and secondly, my interpretation of what I see in front of me, because sometimes I'll use this map. I might actually use this, and obviously the geography on here is slightly different, but if I use a Google map, it'll end up a little different. The problem I have with all maps currently is there's no point of reference for geography. I've actually looked for the equivalent of a Google map that offers topography. So they all say, I've looked so many places, and I've got a background in geography, and basically, topography and sort of land use and what's the word? We're looking at vegetation cover is key. You get maps and they will have them. They'll say, well, this is. I can remember in particular in the Ogaden War, trying to find out where the boundaries of the Ogaden plains were and what sort of grass they were, and then trying to find. There's no sort of simple thing like that, and I've even tried to get maps, paper maps, and you just can't get them. Even paper maps of Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya, they're actually quite difficult to get hold of. I mean, the best you can get is a tourist map, and they're okay, but getting a sort of, because I did geography, I had access to quite a few maps, and when you needed a map that showed sort of vegetation, anything, where it could be political sort of zones or land use zones or crime rates or whatever, just sort of geographical information in map form. It used to be, obviously I didn't have everything, but I was dealing with, in that sort of world, I had access to, a whole range of things. But, what I can't find is a map that will show this area, and it will show this with a key as hills, and then it will say this is light rough, and then this is rough, and then this is desert, and then this is scrub desert. I mean, an Ordnance Survey map will have keys, so you can actually interpret some things like marshlands, but it won't specifically specify zonings like agricultural or orchards, or it'll show forests, but it won't show it'll show national parks. It won't necessarily show things like that. Anyway, I'm sort of going on, but that's why so this is why a lot of these maps end up just desert, because I don't know what sort of desert or what sort of scrub or whatever it is. It's all made up. I mean, here is sort of basically the only thing I can really reference is the photo satellite view in Google Maps. Anyway, enough of that. So I'm just going to do this side. I don't want to spend too long on this. I'll spend a bit of time talking. Now, I'm going to assume that I messed up here. I'm going to have to obviously try and sort this out. So they're going to they were fifth columnists. They're going to get a free pass to move out because I'm going to move them out anyway. Now I did try to put irregulars on the front line, and I think I pretty much succeeded. They're irregulars, just to sort of make them easy to push back, and then put all the harder units, such as these mechanised units, motorised, the artillery, further behind, so to give the YPG a bit of time to sort of regroup. It's not as though there was a front line. I think the front line was very lightly guarded. I do find it interesting that Maranaz is mined, because presumably no one's living there. But you can never believe what you read. So we've got 3 infantry units in there. So I think we can afford to attack this stack here. Now that'll be a 5-to-1 presumably, but let's just put in 3 units, which will probably give us 7-to-1. Okay, so they've retreated. Oh, he came along the road, so he can't move, so presumably he can't move at all. Okay, so this stack is worth 2, 4, 6. So we won't get our irregular bonus against them. Well, what have we got under here? Lots of irregulars. Okay. Well, let's just prepare for this. We should be able to push this guy back. Yeah. Okay. Now, I don't know what you're thinking, but I know what you might be thinking. Basically, I know there's reinforcements coming along this road, so I'm not going to attack here, mainly because they're going to be worth 6, and I'll have 2, 3, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that'll be a 1-to-1. What I want to do is wait until the reinforcements come in. They should be able to really shift this with ease. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, there's no point really, but we shouldn't be counter-attacked. Okay, so in this turn. So what do they want to do? Well, the thing is, it's interesting. I think the key thing is to start possibly considering a front line. We've got artillery down here, which we can start hitting that with. So let's actually, well, what I want to do is maybe just sort of think it through, because what I want to do, based on what we got here, is think of two things. The first is whether to counterattack. The next is whether to hold, and the third, it's not two, three, is whether to retreat. Now, these things all sound like, well, that's nothing so special about that, but the thing is that they are quite key. And when I say retreat, it's not run away, but the thing is, if we counterattack, what we're doing, for example, I could counterattack there. I could possibly do something here, but what I could do, I could move some of these units and try and push in there. And I can start maybe pushing up against these units, bringing units to bear across here. So the options really for an attack would be to consider this is a block, this is a block, this is a block, and this sort of squiggly area, because they will probably fragment as a block. And you sort of think, I have got enough to do that. Well, I've got some units down here. We could possibly sway these over, although if we're playing on that sort of east-west frontage, which I am, they're out of bounds. Or, on a hold, we've got exactly the same structure, but we could say, okay, we're going to hold here. So we could go back into Sharon, reinforce with these two units, and then these ones can all come in here to form a line to protect against that. These units could somehow defend against this, and everything else can pile up to form a line across there. Now the retreat option, which I think isn't necessarily a full retreat, but it works like this, you see. What I'm sort of thinking is, instead of waiting for these guys to get all the way up to there, what we do, they go to here, and these units come to here, and we form a line along there. So we just give these places up. I mean, it does talk in itself on an article about, you know, the possibility that they gave them up anyway. And I think that to some extent that's what war is more like. When I sort of think about it like that, you know, what happens is one side presents themselves and as an attacking force, and obviously they're not going to attack unless they think they can win. They've probably got superior numbers. The defending force then says, wow, there's a lot of them, let's just leave. And that's sort of how it happens. Now, if they are determined, or they feel there's not so many of them we could hold, or they've got orders to hold, for example, then they might just hold, but you know, stand and fight. But I think basically, if you were to look at war in that sort of abstract that sort of abstract format, you could say, okay, well, as long as they've got bigger forces, then you win. So we could say, okay, we'll write a game, and if we can develop 4-to-1 forces against Al-Malikiya, if we can get 4-to-1 against them, they will automatically retreat. we don't have to do the battle because they'll say, well, they're not going to hold on that. And I think, you could say, well, we're being attacked. Let's pull back so that we can reduce the odds. And once they're down to 3-1, then we can say, well, these are our odds for holding. And, this is how you might think of things like this. But this is a surprise attack. Obviously there's been a lot of tension in the area for some time. But you can just imagine that people are off guard just because days go on forever, day after day. And this might have been a surprise. And they might not have been ready. And they might have thought, well, we'll just pull back. But then all the YPG have to do is then regroup, and then when they counterattack, as they did down here on these 3 settlements, the NSA say, well, there's lots of them, and then they withdrew, and you could find that these places have exchanged based on this observation. But obviously that's not clear cut, because if it was, you would just pretend you've got lots more and the other person would leave. And giving ground isn't really what you want to do. But in these sorts of little places it is. I mean, for something like Afrin, it's probably heavily fortified, and they're going to have to fight for it. And a built-up area is a different kettle of fish, because you can use a much more intense sort of guerrilla operation to slow an enemy down. I mean, you can have a very small force and make it very costly for an attacker to take them. But these little villages, there's nothing there. There's no dense urban terrain to form that sort of defence. I mean, they're not really, but these are Grad rockets. And if you look at the South Front thing, which I tend to do when I want to relax, it says that the Syrian army that has got to be a homemade rocket. I mean, look at that. What is that? Syrian army strikes terrorist positions in northern Latakia with heavy Golan rockets. I just want to do all these scenarios, but I can never remember where Latakia is. But that just looks like a homemade rocket to me. Islamic Jihad showcases long-range rockets, threatens to strike Israeli nuclear reactor in new video. Disguised as a zebra. No, that's not a zebra, is it? It's a cow. They disguised it as a cow. If you get near it, it says moo. Where is it? Look at that. This is like a sci-fi movie, isn't it? It's like the V2 rocket. See that? I don't want to do that. I don't even know where it is. And this. Look at that. Arrows. Oh, where is it? Look at that. What is that? Is that like a grenade launcher? The thing with modern warfare, it's just becoming more and more grotesque that everyone's got a HMG. The number of people firing HMGs from the hip is unbelievable. I don't know. I mean, there used to be support weapons, and this guy, that's what the Terminator had, or Arnold Schwarzenegger, wasn't it? Sort of like, why bother with, rounds when you can use grenades? Is it gone? It was there a minute. There it is, look. I haven't looked at the video, but that is a rocket. It says Syrian Arab Army has deployed at least 2 TOS-1A thermobaric rocket launchers around the militant-held governor of Idlib in the northwestern part of the country in a video by pro-government activists. These things are like Grad rockets. TOS-1A, I mean, it might be a Grad rocket. I never really concern myself too much with things like this. They're there, but I mean, one day this will be artificial intelligence, and this will be a robot that will just automatically reload itself. You can almost see that as an intelligent arm, and they just plonk these things in. But what I'm getting to is if you use one of those rockets on one of these towns, it will just level it. Now, obviously, ISIS have adapted in the sense that they've done a lot of tunnel digging. But these YPG units, they're not doing that. I'm pretty sure they're just trying to get on with life because they're more legitimate in the sense that they feel that they're not being hounded by everyone. But I don't think they're going to hold onto one of these little villages when you've got these sort of thermobaric rocket launchers coming down, or even just normal rockets or airstrikes. And so I think there's going to be that sort of natural relinquishing of territory and then taking it back. It's like cats. I have cats, and you'll see them, and if a cat chases another one, the other cat will invariably run away because it's been chased. It doesn't matter about how big it is. And then the other cat will sit there and look at the other one, and then it will run at the other one, and the other one will run away. And it's like, whoever's got the momentum on that, I mean, obviously cats square up, but obviously cats spend more time just looking at each other. I think that's quite odd, really, because you know what they're doing, and they just sort of spend a hell of a lot of time just looking at each other, and then one of them will figure it out and will walk away. But and I don't think you can ignore that in the grand scheme of things, really. But anyway, I don't want to take it much further than that, because I've gone through the three options, and I think that you could either take an active offence or an active defence, I think is the sort of Western terminology for that sort of doctrine. You're going to attack in order to defend, so we could push these units back. So we're not attacking in order to take territory, but we can push this unit back. We've already fired some... Did we fire our rockets on it? Our artillery? No. Okay, let's maybe just go through this first bit. So we've done a little bit of damage on that. Now, they're going to be 8. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We could possibly get a 1-to-1 against that, but they're mechanised and we're infantry, so we need some sort of armoured support, and that is all down here. No. Yeah, we've got some mechanised units there, so we've got 1. And everything else is down here. We've got 3 over here. So we need to get that over there to reduce that negative. But we'd only have a 1-to-1. So that's a toughie. How many have we got in there? 4. So we just can't get there. Can we get there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't think so. 2, 3. What we could do is that. Oh, what's this? Nope, motorised. So we should get a 1-to-1 here, which is tight. But if we can keep the pressure on those units. The thing is, it's a stupid move, but I'm just going to do it. 1-to-1 exchange. And the reason I'm doing it is because I know they're going to come up with, I mean, if it was just this, it'd be fair enough, but they're going to come up with some heavy units up here soon. but that could sway the balance of the game. Here, what I'm doing is sort of an active defence. I'm going to just form up a bunch of lines here. We've got these units here that count for the eastern side, so we might have to worry about them as well. Move this artillery nearer. We fire at anything. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fire at that, possibly. If we can do some damage against it, that would be nice. 1.2, that's good. So I'm going to hit them with that. Okay, so we're going for this sort of active defence. We're forming a defence here, which is the fourth option really, active defence as opposed to offence. We're forming up there. We've got these units here, but we should be able to form up our line like this. So these units are going to go somewhere in there, because we're going to defend from that and that. We're forming up this line here, trying to do some damage to that. We've got these units which should be able to either come this way or using this road swing all the way around to either there or to there or to there, so to there or to there. So we can use this road, moving these along. These are on the road now, so similarly, so combining, wherever we combine these motorized units, this one and this one, we can pack a punch. So we could possibly push them this way and this way. I think these units should be okay. So let's see if we can do some damage on this. That could have been better. One, two, three, four. We've got some irregulars here. the bonus might actually work. I'm going to go for it. I can never remember how this bonus thing works, but they're below 4 strength. They're below 5, so in theory we should get 5, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18 against them, times 10%, so it's 19.8. Yeah, I was right, 19.8. But we got 12 dice roll. 4 to 1, that was terrible. Okay, so we'll end that turn. So already it's a sort of static advance. Now we could play this again and just have them retreat. And obviously these units can now focus on pushing these guys back. This guy is at 1.8. He's going to have to decide whether he wants to sort of hold back behind the lesser units and wait for the stronger ones to come on, because it looks as though he's being targeted. This is fairly strong, but it's not actually that strong, as we demonstrated on that big stack of 4. I think this unit is in a bit of a problem position, although we could reinforce him with these motorized units, just simply because he's got these units against him. So I think that's quite interesting, actually. I think the YPG need a bit more support. I think I might be getting some reinforcements to arrive on turn 8 or something. Okay, well I'm going to leave it at that because I want to do other things. I might try another scenario and just work through my backlog or something. I hope you enjoy that. I'll speak to you later. Cheerio.